Okay, let's talk about the open-ended question that we're going to be seeing in the AP exam. It's going to be 45 minutes in length, and you're going to be taking it at home. Now, that's good news for us because all we have to do is focus on the novels that we covered. First, we have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, which we covered earlier in the year. Then we have The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, which we had just finished before, well, you know, and King Lear by William Shakespeare. So what we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to focus on how to take each of these novels, to analyze them, and prepare ourselves for the open-ended questions. Then we're going to practice with these novels on the past questions so that we're familiar with what we're going to see. Let's begin. Okay, so we have some good news. We can go to sparknotes.com and they have all the information organized in one place that all we have to do is review it, take notes, organize it, and we'll be ready. The first thing we want to look at is King Lear. When in doubt, go with Shakespeare. So go to sparknotes.com, type in King Lear in the search, and you'll take us to the page. The first thing we're going to look at is the summary. That is a plot overview, a short video where it discusses the plot, 5 key questions, what does the ending mean, and summary and analysis of all acts and scenes. This is a good place to start. Now, as we're reading this, you want to have a notepad next to you, like I do, taking good notes. Let's talk about taking good notes. Okay, so now after reviewing the summary page on sparknotes.com, we now have a refresher of what events had happened: the exposition, the rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. The next thing we want to do is look at each of the individual characters and how they interact with Lear. Lear is our protagonist, our tragic hero, and as we look through the characteristics of the tragic hero and how they develop themes, when each of the characters interacts with Lear, it develops a theme. So here are some suggestions on how we can go about doing that. Create an analysis of each character on an index card. When we go to the character analysis on sparknotes.com, it has a paragraph that does an analysis on the major characters. It even goes to in-depth analysis. So on the one side of the card, you could have the character's name. On the other side of the card, the in-depth analysis of each of the characters. Make sure that we have the description of the characters, as I said, when we go into the character analysis on sparknotes.com. And also the in-depth analysis. If not all the characters have them, but some of them do. And if they do, you want to definitely go and take notes on that. What is the character's interaction with King Lear? Since King Lear, the protagonist, center of the play, all the actions revolve around him and his actions. So through his hamartia and hubris, we see that it propels the actions throughout the rest of the play. So how do each of the characters react with Lear? And through the dialogue that Shakespeare uses, what theme is developed? And there we go, what theme is developed with these interactions. So these are the ideas that we want to start to think about. Then what we want to do is create a web diagram with Lear in the middle, add the characters, themes, quotes, with the descriptions of the interaction for a quick reference, so that when you're doing your work, you can have all the information laid out in front of you. And as we go through the past open questions, it will be easy for you to develop your thesis sentence. You already have your quotes for our SEC paragraphs. And as I'm going to show you, you can add your comments right now of how the quote that Shakespeare uses develops the theme. Now, before we do our character analysis, it's important for us to know all the themes that Shakespeare incorporates within King Lear. Sparknotes.com, main ideas. All the information that we need, more than we need, on how to write specific essays, the ideas, and all we have to do is find the examples in the text. So it has the themes, plot analysis, all the way to foreshadowing, and what does justice mean in King Lear. Pay careful attention to this section on SparkNotes because I'm going to be developing questions myself. It will go particularly with these ideas. So what we have here is a great deal of information here to plan your essay. Make sure you spend a lot of time on this and take good notes. So at this point, you should have gone over the review of the plot, how the play goes along, just to refresh your memories. Looked at each individual character, look at the analysis that was provided on SparkNotes for the character. If they have in-depth analysis, you've already taken notes on that. You've looked at all the main ideas within the play. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to provide an example on how to do a web diagram so that we can organize all these ideas and then link them back to your detailed notes so everything will be easily accessible. So notice how I put King Lear in the middle. Everything revolves around him. He's the one that started it, and he's the one that, through his nemesis, his justice, what he gets at the end. So we started off with Cordelia. I put a little description or ideas about the plot. The daughter loves him the most, refused the love test, banished, returns for rescue, captured, reconciled, and dead. High-level overview of Cordelia's actions in the plot. And next to it, I put the themes. What themes were developed through the interaction between King Lear and Cordelia? Blindness. During the love test, he can't see that Cordelia is the one that actually loves him, that he loves flattery more. And that's hamartia and hubris. Next is loyalty. Even though he treated her so bad, she's exiled to France where she marries the king. She talks to the King of France to gather troops to come back in because of what Cordelia and Regan had done to Lear and basically just threw him out. And lastly, reconciliation. So through this webbing, I can look quickly and get a high-level overview of Cordelia's relationship to King Lear and the themes that are developed. Then I did Regan and Goneril. Daughters, empty flattery, half the kingdom conspire together, reduce his knights, put them out in the storm. They love Edgar, betray their husbands, betray each other, murder and dead. And again, it's a high-level overview of the details that are in my detailed notes, which you should have. And what themes are developed? Appearance from reality, unreliability of speech, family relations, and so forth. So I can look at this high-level overview, link it to my detailed notes. I can look at the themes that are developed and look at my notes on each individual theme. So when you go to write these essays that we're going to put together, we're not going to write the whole essays. All we're going to do is the thesis statement and then outline our SEC paragraphs in preparation for the AP exam. So what I want you to do is to take the character list that you have already taken notes on, hopefully, and I want you to do a web diagram like I did here for all of the characters. A high-level overview of the plot and how they interact with Lear, and the themes that are developed through that interaction. Make sure you get that done because that's going to be a big help. All right, now that I've reviewed the plot, I've looked at the characters, I looked at the themes that their interaction with Lear developed. What I want to do now is find specific quotes within the text that support the development of those themes. So I'm going to do an example for Cordelia. You can use this example, but you're going to finish the rest of all the other characters based upon the model that I'm doing right now. So what themes did I see? Blindness, hubris, loyalty, and reconciliation. When Cordelia reacts or interacts with Lear, these are the themes that are developed through their dialogue, the Shakespeare's dialogue. So King Lear is the epicenter of the play, and Shakespeare uses Lear's interactions with the other characters to develop the themes of the play. So after I have identified the themes that are related to each of the characters, I want to locate several examples of dialogue where these themes are developed. And as I said, I'm going to use Cordelia as an example. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to think about high-level What actions do I want to, of Cordelia, do I want to incorporate? I don't need all of them, but I need enough. So we start off in a high level view. Lear becomes infuriated when Cordelia refuses to participate in the love test and banishes her. Now that brings out his hamartia and hubris. He's unable to see the truth because of his pride. And Lear favors Cordelia above his other daughters. Cordelia gathered, and that goes back to his blindness. He already knows that she loves him the best, but because she doesn't flatter him like the other daughters, he becomes infuriated, and that's because of his blindness and his pride. Now, even though Cordelia is treated poorly, when she's in France, she hears of her father's troubles, so she gathers troops and invades England to save him. That's loyalty. And after his fall, Lear recognizes the truth and reconciles with his daughter. So we have family relationships and reconciliation themes. So now what I want to do is find themes, or excuse me, quotes to support these ideas that I've outlined. And then I'm going to briefly comment on how the quote develops the theme. So I'm pretty much, I have my SEC paragraph already done. I have the quote, I have the comment. All I need to do is incorporate it into a good topic sentence. Let's see how we're going to do that. Now, keeping with the outline of the ideas in the plot as it relates to Cordelia and her relation to King Lear, I start at the beginning. Here, Lear indicates Cordelia is his favorite, then becomes infuriated, and Cordelia shows the truth of love. Now, think about this. He knows that she truly loves him more than everybody else. He is, or she is, his favorite, but because he loves flattery more than the truth, he becomes blind. So we start off. Cordelia says that in her heart is so much love, she's unable to express it by her speech. Then Lear asks her, go ahead and speak, flatter me. And she says, nothing. And he says, what? What can come from that? So this dialogue between Cordelia and Lear show truth of love in Cordelia, and it also shows the beginning of Lear's pride and his blindness. So now what I need to do is to write some commentary on how Shakespeare did that through the dialogue. So we start off. Shakespeare reveals through dialogue. Cordelia is intimidated by her sisters. Now that's a comment because it doesn't say that, but we can surmise that. Yet she has great love for her father, but is afraid that her speech will be unable to explain it. Lear reveals his feelings for Cordelia, calling her my joy. Also, he intends to proportion a greater part of the kingdom, thus revealing that he favors her most. See, that's a comment. It doesn't say that, but he says that he will give, if she does a better job than the other two sisters, she'll get more. That's an inference. That's why it's a comment. So on the AP exam, you write what is inferred in the comment, not what is directly stated, which is just summarizing the plot. And Lear is dumbfounded at Cordelia's response and threatens her. This shows his quick temper and is blinding him to the truth. And underneath I put loyalty and blindness. Those are the themes. So I have my quotes. I explain what Shakespeare does through the dialogue and what themes are developed. Let's continue. All right, now this is a continuation of the same particular dialogue between Lear and Cordelia in the love test. She says, unhappy that I am, I cannot heave my heart into my mouth. She's explained to him that she has so much of love that she can't express it. And then, now notice what I did here, long quote paraphrase. So Lear responds in a really long quote. I didn't want to write the whole thing down, so what I did was paraphrase. That's okay. Remember, we talked about that. If you have a long quote, you can paraphrase it instead. So I put, infuriated by a response, Lear disowns Cordelia. He then gives his kingdom to Goneril and Regan. He will live 1 month with each daughter with 100 knights. They will pay for his sustenance, and Lear shall retain the name of king and all the benefits he enjoys. The quote in the dialogue was just too long, so I just paraphrased it. That's okay. Now, next is Shakespeare reveals through the dialogue. This is the comment. What does that mean? And what themes are developed? So Cordelia tells the truth. This shows that she is of good character, and through her honesty reveals that she is the one who loves the king the most. Doesn't say that, but I make an inference. The inference is the comment. I'm not paraphrasing or just retelling the plot. Next, Lear's pride blinds him. Doesn't say that, but we can infer that. He wanted flattery over truth. This reveals his hamartia and hubris. Also, because of these faults, Lear sets the path for his own destruction. So I can throw that in there because that's the beginning of his destruction. Doesn't say that, but I'm inferring that, foreshadowing. His decision to give his kingdom to rely on his daughters are the seeds of his downfall. He wants all the benefits of being the king, but none of the responsibilities. Now notice in this, when I put the paraphrase in there, that he intended to live with them, retain everything that's great about being king, his 100 knights, which we know that gets stripped from him right before he gets exiled out into the storm. Let's continue with our analysis of Cordelia and themes. Now, right after he banishes Cordelia, as you'll remember, because I know you've already gone back on sparknotes.com and reviewed the plot, you know that Kent comes up and admonishes King Lear for what he'd just done. Peace, Kent, come not between the dragon and his wrath. So, his wrath, we can see that because of his hubris, he's blinded to the truth. And Kent says, let it fall on me. And he says, should I just keep my mouth shut when you're doing something so wrong? This is an important part of the play because at this point, Lear could have stopped, realized what was going on, and reversed action, and none of the rest of the play would have happened. So what does Shakespeare do? Shakespeare reveals through dialogue. Remember, your comment is not about the dialogue, the plot. It's about what William Shakespeare is doing through the dialogue to develop the themes of the play. Through Kent, Lear's hamartia and hubris are revealed to the audience. Lear is given a chance to take back his vow and avert the nemesis that awaits him. Through Kent's dialogue, Lear is confronted with his folly. He admonishes Lear that he is bowing to flattery rather than the truth. Themes, loyalty, blindness, order, and chaos. So now, notice that what I'm doing is I'm making my comments about the themes and how they're developed through the dialogue. The essay's halfway written right here. My SEC paragraphs, this is it. This is why it's important to prepare so that when you have all your notes, you can study and be ready for the AP exam. Let's continue on. Okay, now following the outline of events that I had put for Cordelia, she's been exiled to France, and at this point she finds out what's happened to her father. She's going to marshal troops and go back and help him. And these are the dialogue that develops the theme. So he's too overwhelmed with shame. He remembers how unkind he was to her, how he disowned her. So Kent's explaining that Lear is through the other theme of self-knowledge, which could have been put in there if we're writing about Lear, but we're writing about Cordelia. And he explains to Cordelia that Lear realizes the error of his ways. And then she says, sadly, it's the king that's missing. They saw him just now as mad and deranged as the stormy sea, singing loudly, wearing a crown. So she starts to feel really bad, and this shows her true love. Next, Cordelia talks about invading, that she's invading out of love or not ambition or greed. So these quotes, this dialogue, Shakespeare reveals the loyalty of Cordelia and shows her true heart. Although she has been dishonored through Lear's hamartia and hubris, Her true character was revealed through her actions of trying to save her father. So we have these quotes Shakespeare uses to develop the themes of loyalty, love, family relationships, and reconciliation. SEC. I already have my comment. I already have my quotes. So good preparation makes easy essay. No preparation, bad essay. Let's continue. So now we come to the end of Cordelia's interaction with King Lear before she's killed and he dies. So they're in prison and they reconcile. Lear says, no, 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 come, let us away to prison. We two alone will sing like birds. So it shows that he realizes what his problem was. He reconciles with Cordelia, obviously too late. So Shakespeare reveals through dialogue. Lear realizes his errors and that he has caused his downfall. He reconciles with Cordelia. Themes, self-realization, and reconciliation. And again, what I've done is I've taken my outline from Cordelia's interactions with King Lear at the beginning of the play all the way to the end of the play. I identified what themes are being developed, and then I went and found the quotes that show the development of those themes and how Shakespeare did it. Okay, let's sum up what we did. I analyzed the character, and in this case it was Cordelia, as she related to King Lear. Plot, characterization, dialogue, and theme. Now, I determined what themes were developed through the dialogue of Cordelia and Lear. Then I went and identified examples from the text that supported the development of those themes. Lastly, I commented on how those examples developed the themes, how Shakespeare did it. Now, it's your turn. Take these type of notes for all the characters in the play. And what we will do is we'll use these to practice making thesis statements and outlines from past open-ended questions. Again, this is what I want you to do. Go to sparknotes.com. Review all the information that's on there. Take notes. Character analysis, plot, theme, summaries, good notes. Then take each of the characters. Develop a web of how they interact with King Lear. Do a summary of the plot on one side, the themes that are developed through their interaction. Next, take those ideas, go into the text, find specific examples that Shakespeare creates that develop those themes. Then write a comment next to those quotes explaining how Shakespeare uses those quotes to develop the themes with the interaction between those characters. It's quite an assignment. However, when in doubt, go with Shakespeare. When I was looking through the past 30 years of questions, most of them, if not all of them, I could use Shakespeare, King Lear. Get busy, get on task.